I'll be honest. And so me as HR and any person in HR, I know we are not revenue driven. And I've actually made this department here at FC Dallas revenue driven because I have that entrepreneurial mindset to say, you know what? We're going to go out and recruit. So we're going to brand FC Dallas. We're going to brand it as being the best place to be. I don't spend much money, and I tell everybody on recruiting. I will tell you, and you're not going to believe it, about $1,000 a year. I'll include a swag pen, which is nice to have, where I will have mouse pads, things like that. But most of the time, it's my presence. So one of the other tactics that I use is I will go to these events. When you have all these sponsors at these events, they're always giving you items. So I take an FC Dallas bag. I see their hands full and I'm like, you really need this bag? Put your stuff in here and here's your bag. Now they mark it for me. They're doing branding. You know, I tell HR people, recruiters, talent acquisitions, I'm like, think outside the box.
Hi, I'm Denise Chaffin, president of Top Source Talent, and this is Talking TA with Top Source Talent. And today with me, I have Eliud Jimenez, who is the VP of Human Resources and Talent for FC Dallas, Football Club Dallas. I had the pleasure and honor of meeting Eliud in Grapevine, Texas in this last November, and we just connected, and I am just honored to have him. I am honored to have him on our podcast today. And without further ado, as I always say, Eliud, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about FC Dallas and your role with the company.
Hello, Denise. A pleasure, and thank you for the introduction. It actually said we really did connect back in November at Craig Fisher's talent conference that he had here. Just a little bit about myself. My name is Eliud Jimenez. I have been in the sports industry. This is my third season. I have about 27 years of HR experience and talent acquisition throughout the U.S., Mexico, and Canada. So I've done recruiting across the board in just about every country you can think of. So wherever there has been presence with other organizations, that's what I've been doing. History, education background, I have a master's in HR, a bachelor's in business, 3 paralegal specializations, immigration law, employment law, and then also in family law. And I'm also a legal interpreter. So that's a little bit about myself. I live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and I have been very successful, and I will say in my career and also in talent, something that I enjoy. I have a passion for just connecting with people.
You do. I've noticed. You connect well with people. In fact, Aileen invited me to a dinner that was absolutely phenomenal. How many people were there? 18 people at one table, right?
Right.
Something like that. And you were just connected with all of them. So yes, you're absolutely right. Jumping into our conversation about FC Dallas, it is honestly so incredible to speak with another industry, if you would, outside of, the tech world that I'm used to, working in and speaking with people about. In the sports industry, I think it is really amazing, to talk to you and to learn more about it. So tell me a little bit more about recruiting for the sports industry and about some of the different roles, if you would, that you guys normally recruit for outside of trying to find amazing players.
So I don't do players. I do more of the administrative staff and game day staff positions here at FC Dallas 2 at the stadium. So keep in mind, I handle all the administrative part or recruiting for the administration for not only the FC Dallas, but also for North Texas Soccer Club, which is our reserve team. And then we also do recruiting for the Academy, FC Dallas Academy, and the National Soccer Hall of Fame, including Toyota Stadium in Frisco. Okay. So those positions, all administrative positions, coaches, I recruit for those. And then I also recruit for game day staff. It's been about 15 years when I speak to the Hunt family that they used to do direct labor. They used to use contract labor. Okay. And when I came on board, that was one of the areas that they wanted to save money on. So usually per year, they hire approximately a good 500 people. And I have closed that gap. And so everybody was wondering how I was doing it. And I'll tell you, it's an easy concept. If recruiters and HR, talent acquisitions, if individuals would just spend time out in the community, face to face, these positions can be filled in any industry you can think of, because I'm out in the community and I often get questions of, do you know anyone hiring for IT? And I'm be like, send me a resume, hit me up on LinkedIn. I get every kind of positions you can think of and people looking for work.
That's interesting. Now, how many positions do you need to hire or fill for FC Dallas that might, I don't know, parallel some of the positions that we might need for other industries?
IT, so our IT department is outsourced. So when I get positions for IT, what I end up doing, I send it over to our third-party vendor that handles all the tech part of the organization. There may be people that are looking to get into the hospitality industry, and I share those resumes with people that I know in the hospitality industry and say, hey, are you needing a person? Here's this person. And so I'm able to get that out. The good thing about it in sports management, that is a new degree, okay? And it's becoming overcrowded at this area. So that helps out a lot. But keep in mind, organizations in the sports industry, they only have so many openings. So a lot of them are open to internships, okay? So what I end up doing with our interns, and I think this is where I have been extremely successful, is last year I started, okay, how do I get the best of the best? Okay. So what I started to do was I started visiting all the campuses, the universities, and doing speaking engagements. And so I would do, because I have been a career coach and I've done that all my life, I've written resumes. So what I end up doing with individuals is, one thing is, come work for us on a part-time basis or an intern. And before your intern's over, I will guide you as far as your career goes, and I'll help you rewrite your resume. So I do that. And on top of that, what I end up doing is I give these individuals a shout out on LinkedIn where everybody is starting to follow them.
Oh, that's amazing. Very good. What a great way to network and help other people to network themselves out as well. And you mentioned that you are presenting at the universities.
That is correct. I end up going in, and I am the most honest HR person. I will tell you the way it is. That's just simple.
Is that like
flat out.
The most
I am just that
lawyer?
Honest. As an employer, I'm that honest. I'm like, if you're looking to make $75,000 getting out of college as a PR, it's not going to happen. You're going to make $15 an hour. So, and then I tell these students that are looking for work, I'm like, your resume is just not wowing me. I can't say, wow, this is the best resume. And they're like, well, what can I do? Okay, take off the word detail-oriented off your resume because I see some mistakes at this point.
Yeah.
Take off the word aspiring. The word is overused.
Yeah, so is detail-oriented. Anybody who's listening to this podcast, quit using those words in resumes.
Yes, exactly. And I'm like, just stop.
Yeah. No kidding. Well, now, when you're speaking with the interns or you're speaking with people who are getting ready to graduate from college, some of the business roles that you might be hiring for, though, outside of IT, what are some of those other business roles that people could be looking forward to that want to get into sports?
There's accounting that we have to do. We also have kinesiology individuals as well. We also, HR, this year, I've requested 3 interns for the HR department. So that came on board. Then there's also positions that we have, for example, we have accounting, we have photographers, we have content writers, social media handlers. So all these other positions that are just out there right now, they're just growing. And what I try to do is I love to bring in diverse individuals to the organization because those individuals are going to be the ones that connect us to different groups across the U.S. flat out. So, for example, if I need to bring someone who's Spanish, I need to make sure that person speaks and writes fluidly Spanish. And so I will conduct that interview 100% Spanish. And if there's another language that we need to target, guess what? If they have it on their resume, I will call the language line and we do a whole interview in that language. It's so people are like, okay, you really are just narrowing down the pool of candidates to see if they can really speak those languages.
That's amazing. Now let's go back to the sports management degree, because you mentioned that that's a new degree, and I want to ask you a little bit about that. People who are majoring in sports management, and you mentioned like accounting and photography, things like that. What are some of the different avenues that they can go into? Because I haven't heard of sports management degrees before. How long has it been around?
Denise, it's been around, I'm going to say a good 5 years, maybe somewhere around there. So it hasn't been around quite a bit. But what I can tell you is they're able to come in just about any area. Marketing is one. They can come in managing the first team, the admin for the first team. They can come in as photographers. So there's just different areas out in the field, because we do need photographers out in the field. Analytics. In every sport, you will see individuals wearing these vests, and those vests are monitoring everything on those individuals. How hard they're kicking the ball, how long they can withstand running. It's just the analytics. So these individuals, the analytics part, I just brought in an intern today. And guess what? That's all he's going to be monitoring, the analytics, measuring how hard the balls are kicked. I mean, it's so all this information, you stop and think like, that really does exist. For example, when I came on board, I hired a mascot. I didn't know there was a whole interview process for a mascot. There's a height limit. And so I hired a mascot. And you're thinking, this cannot be true. And I'm like,
what's the height limit?
You know, they require them at least to be 5'10" to be able to be a mascot.
Is that across all industries? Listen to me. All sports, though? I mean, for mascots?
Just about all sports.
I never knew that. That's very interesting. Okay, so when somebody is, I know this is kind of going off into a little bit of a, what do you call it? I'm going off course here. But when you're interviewing people for a mascot role, how do you interview them? I mean, what are some of the questions you ask?
We ask, for example, how are you going to bring people to us?
Oh.
You know, how are you going to act? How is your personality? Because mascots cannot speak when they're in costume. They cannot. So literally, you know, I will be a handler, and I've been a handler before, and I'm literally in my ears like this to him. I'm like, what did you say? You know, it can be too hot. He's like, I need to get some rest. So there we go, moving him out. And then, I mean, it's just, or how do you handle when people or kids are mistreating you?
Oh.
How do you approach that? So the handler needs to be able to address those issues right there and then.
That is really interesting. I love it. I didn't expect this to come up. That's pretty cool.
And I'll tell you, we brought in the mascot, and he was only doing a couple of events a year. We increased those events to 88 in 2023.
Are you serious?
So this year, I just did an event on Sunday with him, and he's like, I want to get to 100. And I said, I'm going to make it happen. And so what I've been doing is on LinkedIn, I've been promoting the mascot.
There you go. There you go.
I'll be honest. And so me as HR and any person in HR, I know we are not revenue driven. And I've actually made this department here at FC Dallas revenue driven.
Wow. That's
because
great.
I have that entrepreneurial mindset to say, you know what? We're going to go out and recruit. So we're going to brand FC Dallas. We're going to brand it as being the best place to be. And guess what? We have to, each league, you know, we're with Apple, okay? So we need to be able to get people to sign up for Apple. So I end up putting a little verbiage to watch every league, MLS league game, join Apple. Or I like tickets. I'm out promoting the organization for people to buy tickets for marketing.
Now, you mentioned, too, some of the positions that you have ticket sales, right? are some of the positions that you would have for people, maybe interns, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
How many of those positions, though, let's say you start out in ticket sales, what is the career path, if you would, for somebody who wants to stay in sports management or stay in the sports industry for a career? What is their path forward?
You know what? I'll tell you a success story. One of our general managers for the reserve team started out in ticket sales, and now he's a general manager. He manages the second team, the reserve team, and that's very successful because from our reserve team, from our academy, we've had 35 players go professionally.
That's great. That's great. Congratulations. And congratulations to your players also. Speaking of which, let's talk about the Ted Lasso series. Because Ted Lasso, of course, I mean, football and soccer, or as you know, it's called soccer here in the United States. They brought in new audiences as a result of that series, obviously. So how on target would you say that series was to the real football industry or soccer industry?
Well, what's your thoughts? I want to hear what your thoughts are, and then I'm going to give you my thoughts.
I loved that series. I was so bummed when it ended and that they didn't have another season that came up. I would imagine, because a lot of the stories were behind the scenes, I would imagine that there was probably a lot less success, maybe a lot less immediate success in the real industry, as you saw on the television series, just because they were winning so many games, and they would lose a few here and there too. But it was more calculated, I think, on the series,
right?
How it was managed and the players and how they really performed on the field.
You know, I'll tell you, on the field, Ted Lasso is just a handful in itself. Okay, that show.
It is. I loved it.
So it's not accurate. Some of it could be, some of it isn't. But I think a lot of it has to do with how hard they work on a day-to-day basis. Our team works every morning. They're just out working in this cold weather. They're out. They are training. I mean, the success stories. There's a lot of success stories for individuals that get into soccer or football, as it's said. People we're trying to get everyone to say football instead of football. It's soccer. So they're like, what do you mean FC? I'm like, football club? They're like, that's what FC stands for? Yes. That people don't even get that concept yet.
No. I'm surprised, actually, because of the series. Well, of course, there were a lot of people who didn't engage in the series, I guess, or get involved, or interested in it. So that's funny, because if you travel outside of the U.S. at all, soccer is always called football or football. Yeah.
Yeah, football. And soccer is becoming extremely popular in the U.S. We're waiting for 2026. You know, Dallas is it's on the top 2 to have the final game. So can you stop and think the revenue that's going to come into the city?
So then, that brings up a question for me then. How many people that you're hiring, you've got your players, and obviously there's a big focus on the main event, right? The games themselves. And how many games a year do you have?
We do 17 games a year, and then you may have a couple of friendly games. For example, Inter Miami's coming, and it's got Messi there. That's starting to bring more buzz. I mean, when you bring Messi in, it brings buzz.
Interesting. And so some of the people then you talked about bringing interns in, and besides college grads, a lot of interns in. What percentage of the people you hire are interns?
I would say a good 20%. We'll end up 20%. A full-time job. So they're able to stay, or guess what? A lot of them stay as part-time employees because they really are enjoying what they're doing here. We are a very close group. It's only 200 full-time employees and then part-time employees as well. And then we have quite a bit of game day staff.
So your game day staff would include, of course, you've already talked about ticket sales. Let's go back on that a little bit more. You mentioned a few positions, but I know you've got people who work out in the parking lot, directing traffic, things like that would be part of your staff as well.
Yeah,
correct?
So on your game day staff, they're parking attendants. ushers, ticket takers, which, the ushers and ticket takers are scanning the barcode. So it's those positions. Then we have fan engagement. Our fan engagement are for our sponsors for that game are giving away sponsorship material to all the fans coming out. So that department is basically a marketing department that reports directly under HR. We have security as well. And we have every game, I get about 30, 40 security people start. And then we have about 20, 25 ushers, ticket takers.
Okay. And then with all of these positions, well, that's a lot of positions, really. And then you had mentioned photographers earlier. You mentioned, of course, a lot of your full-time positions, but for your game day staff, I like the way you classify that. What kind of hours are these people working?
They're working sometimes 6-8 hours for the day. And so people are able to supplement their income and watch a professional game on top of that. So stop and think about it. And now, because of the World Cup coming in, they're like, I need to be able to be there at every game because I need to be able to work that World Cup. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to go to a World Cup.
Wow. So like if I wanted to go and get, what do you call it, ticket or ushers, and then you've got
fan engagement.
Fan engagement. So if I wanted to go and supplement my income and do fan engagement, that sounds like a fun job. Then I'd have a potential access then to the World Cup.
That's correct.
Oh, but not guaranteed.
Not guaranteed.
So I want to go back to the sports management degree, because I think that there is, especially since it's only 5 years old.
It's been about 5 years. It's been about 5 years, and I'm like, I've never heard of such degree.
Yeah.
And then now me getting into the profession, I'm getting all these universities contacting me.
I can imagine.
How can I get my students in? How can I do this? What do they need to do? And I'm like, hopefully your students know how to write a good resume that can wow me. Because if it doesn't wow me, it's not going anywhere.
If I wanted to major in sports management and I wanted to, let's say, tie in photography. Let's say I wanted to become a photographer for the sports industry. Would I then take a major in sports management, or would I major in photography, or both?
I tell individuals, this is what I've told individuals in this degree, because it's overcrowded and it just makes sense because it is an overcrowded profession in sports management. Try to major in something, have a major in business or accounting where you are making money. Okay. And then do a minor in sports management. Or do a degree in sports management and then do a minor in accounting, because you're more than likely going to get a job as an accountant than managing a team. You know what I mean? Or if they want to go work for an agency, okay, there's the other thing. That's the other part. Can you obviously work at an agency where you're recruiting players? So it would be hard on the agency part because you have to have those contacts, those relationships to understand what these players can do.
Okay. And how does the agency align then with, for example, FC Dallas? What type of agencies?
So we actually have a technical director and they do all of that for us. Okay. So we don't have an agency on site. So because of our technical director, he does a lot of that. Our scouts are out constantly looking at individuals. So we have people in-house that do all the scouting for us.
Okay, that's a very new avenue, I guess, that we could talk about for a minute, because on the agency side, and I know there's a lot of industries that obviously are working with the third-party vendors, or they're outsourcing, mm-hmm. some aspects of their business, right? So is that kind of how the sports industry then is aligned with these agencies? And who are they scouting for, all the agencies? Just players, or are they scouting for other people as well?
They're scouting for everyone. For example, I'll go with NFL. They're scouting for all the teams, not just a specific team.
So somebody, let's say I wanted to go and wanted to start recruiting professional players. And this may be interesting to people who are in the TA industry, right? Let's say they're tired of the industry they're supporting right now, or the one or two industries they've been supporting. And this is like, oh, wow, this is like really interesting. I want to tap into it more. Tell us a little bit more then about working on the agency side. I mean, are they looking for recruiters? Would a recruiter who's working in another industry fit into the agency business?
Yeah, that's usually how it happens. Okay. So they want to be able for the individual to have those connections.
Huh. All right.
You
Well,
need
then maybe
to have those connections. Those connections are extremely important in the sports industry.
When you say those connections, give me an example.
I'll tell you, because it is such a small niche, it's very small. The sports industry, everybody knows each other. You don't want to burn your bridges. So you better know your people and your connections in the industry.
Oh. So if you wanted to go into then, I mean, they don't obviously start in the agency business, right, with a book of business, if you would, or connections. Right. So how do they develop that?
They go in. A lot of interns or a lot of students that graduate start doing internships with agencies with the potential to start getting, because let's really go back into this. Individuals, when you go to school, you're only taught theory. It's a practical hands-on experience. So if they can start as interns, their sophomore, junior, and senior year, and just rotate with different agencies, you're going to start getting that experience across the board. And then you're also going to start getting those contacts.
As far as, so do these people then become the talent scouts that you're referring to?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so they move into that.
Yeah. Like now I'm looking for two of them. 2 interns.
Oh, are you?
2 scouts.
Where are you going to find them?
We are going all over the place here. But I get resumes. I can literally post a job today and I will have 100 resumes tomorrow. And so guess what happens? Because I am old school, I look at the margins to see if the margins are correct. And if I see a misspelled word, they're automatically rejected. That is how quickly I go through resumes. And I am probably the only HR person I can tell you, or maybe the top 10%. That goes through every resume that comes through. I see every resume.
Do you sleep?
Every day. Every day. So what I do before I go to bed, I go through, I look at every resume. I send it out to the recruiters to say, call them, do pre-screens. And if they say, okay, this is going to be good, I trust that they will be making the right decision. And then in the morning, as soon as I get into the office, because I'm an early bird here at the office, I come in at 7, although our hours aren't until 9 o'clock. I look at the resumes before they come in, the ones that came in between midnight and 7 in the morning. And I do that every day.
Oh, wow. So how many jobs do you have posted currently?
16.
16. And what are those positions?
Our game day staff, because our season is about to start February, will start with so She Believes tournament.
Okay,
that's not our first game, but we host that game, and so our first game is going to be February the 24th.
Okay, got it. So game day staffers mostly then right now.
Right. So right now, whereas a lot of people wait for the season or for the first game to start, I start recruiting starting in December. And so I start building my pipeline, and a lot of people, HR, recruiters, talent acquisitions, whatever name we want to use out there that's used out there now, people officer, all these names that are coming out there. So I don't spend much money, and I tell everybody, on recruiting. Denise, I will tell you, and you're not going to believe it, about $2,000 a year.
On recruiting?
On recruiting.
So where does that $2,000 spent?
You know what? Doing community events.
Oh, okay.
I I will go to schools, community events. But what I end up doing is with my applicant tracking system, I use those individuals and I will send out a blast email to everybody to say, we are hiring for our 2024 season. Do you know anybody? And as soon as that email goes out, and then I use the university handshakes, and I just post all over the U.S. and people just start to apply. So I use that avenue. And then the other avenue is I go with the chambers. I have them do a blast email out. So parents are looking for their kids to work. So guess what? I'm either getting parents and the kids working here. So I don't spend money. It's very little money. And what do I give at these community events? I will tell you, people are always looking to have snacks. And I'm like, I'll include a swag pen, which is nice to have, where I'll have mouse pads, things like that. But most of the time, it's my presence.
Of course. No snacks, though?
And so I will take them a lot of candy. I do take a lot of candy. I'm a sweet tooth, so I give them a lot of snacks and I fill bags. So what?
That's good. That's good.
So one of the other tactics that I use is I will go, they have 5K runs constantly. So all these marathons, 5K runs, I will go to these events. And, you know, when you have all these sponsors at these events, they're always giving you items, right? So I take an FC Dallas bag from our fan shop. And so guess what? I see their hands full and I'm like, you really need this bag. Put your stuff in here. Here's your bag. Now they mark it for me. They're doing branding.
Oh, of course, because you're walking around with a bag full of their stuff.
With the bag full of my stuff.
That's great.
So you have to, you know, I tell HR people, recruiters, talent acquisitions, I'm like, think outside the box.
Right. Think outside of social media too, right?
Exactly. So I'm out of the community all day long. I will do at least 3 or 4 events.
So 2 questions I have though. So besides your events, you mentioned the chambers, the Chamber of Commerce is what you're referring to, right?
That is correct.
How are you advertising with the Chamber of Commerce for these positions?
I will do a flyer and I send it out to them and they have it posted. And so what happens is then they will send it out to all their members.
Now, are these like county chambers or cities or?
The city. Like, for example, the Frisco Chamber of Commerce, North Texas Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Dallas, the Greater Dallas Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, the Irving Chamber of Commerce, the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. So I go to every area and you may spend $100 to be a member. But guess what? You're getting access to all the members. So your branding, it's all about branding your organization. And it's just not in sports, but you can do that everywhere with any company.
All right. So that's with the chamber and then, or the different chambers. I think that's an amazing way to advertise. And then they'll post for you where? That was the other question I had. Where are they posting for you?
It can be on their website, okay, the chamber website, or if it's a flyer attached, because we get a weekly newsletter from the chambers, they'll put it on there, on their weekly newsletter. So guess what? You're a member. You have a child that's 17, 18 years old looking for a part-time job, or they're in college. So guess what? They're letting their kids know, and so the word goes around.
And you said some of the parents, you're hiring some of the parents as well.
Some of the parents. I actually have in our housekeeping department where a mother brought all her 3 kids and they're all seniors in high school. They're like, you're going to work because that's what it's called.
I haven't thought about advertising with the Chamber of Commerce before for different positions. I think that's a magnificent idea. I had another conversation a week ago where the client that I was, or the guest that we had on our podcast was talking about advertising on bus benches and billboards again for some of their positions. And they're using some very unique and innovative ways of recruiting as well. So I think that tapping into the different chambers of commerce is great. I didn't even know that they would advertise for free.
Yeah, I can have them advertise for you. Say I'm greedy or I don't like to spend money, and you're right, I don't. That you tend to think outside the box. For example, I have noticed that at community events, let's say there's a 10K marathon. If you just have your tent out there and just put, for example, water bottle in a bag, and then put a flyer in there with positions, most times individuals that are running or that are going to be there, they're going to drink the water and they're going to be reading the material that you give to them. They know 9 times out of 10, they know somebody that's looking for a job. So in reality, if you stop and think about it, it cost about $10,000 to put a billboard up. So why would you do that? Where you could go to a marathon, be a sponsor, if it cost you $2,000 and you're still getting the same exposure.
Sure, you bet. Yeah, I was going to say it usually costs some money to sponsor an event.
Yeah, about $2,000 if you're going to be a main sponsor. I just go and I just set up a tent, so I'm not a sponsor. I'm just like, I just want to be out there recruiting, give people jobs.
Oh, going back to your game day hires. So these people working 6 to 8 hours per day per game, and if you've got 17 games, so they've really got a total of 17 events then that they're working at, or 17 days that they're working for the whole season.
Yes, but keep in mind, there's also more events other than just games. Okay. You know, there may be concerts, there may be tournaments because of the academy. So there's different things happening here at the stadium where we need to provide the ticket takers, ushers, security. We need to provide all that stuff in there.
So just delve into that a little bit. Tell us about your sports
academy.
So
our academy is, there's males and females. So all ages, I think it starts about 5 to 17. And so it's a yearly pay. And we're really well known out in the industry, being the best academy out there right now because we have been able to produce so many professional players coming out of it. So there's a lot of kids that come here. We host, I think, once or twice a year for scouts to come out and look at these 17-year-olds, 16-year-olds, to look at them for professional jobs or even for scholarships.
That's great. That's fabulous. How many academies are out there?
I don't even know. There's a lot. Well, if you stop and think, if we're talking just soccer, I mean, there's a lot of small little soccer academies that are out there, but one as big as ours, no, not too many. You have the Mavericks, of course, you've got the Cowboys, of course, you've got the Stars, things like that, and the Rangers, all of them have some type of academy. I mean, I'm sure, but for soccer, I mean, we're the biggest ones here.
See, I wasn't familiar with the academies before your description, and also with the agencies. So I find both of those points to be eye-opening, and thank you for sharing about that. If I hear from a lot of recruiters and a lot of people in the talent acquisition industry, especially right now, over this last year was a really flat year for a lot of tech recruiters.
Exactly.
And a lot of them were looking. So if they wanted to get into the sports industry with respect to recruiting, would they start out trying to work with agencies, or what would be your recommendation?
I would say they could go with the agency or go as a recruiter and just work administrative area as a recruiter. For example, with me, I use interns that HR graduates. Even Kevin, I think you met Kevin. So Kevin was my intern. And so he was a psychology major. And guess what? He loved talent. He enjoyed recruiting in the community events. And guess what happened? It was because of that event that we went to Craig Fisher and I spoke to, that one of the individuals that was there, he was a senior recruiter. And so when Kevin went to interview, he's like, I think I heard your boss speak. And then he had you get up and introduce you and say he's looking for a full-time position. It landed him his job. And it's a success story for me because I trained him, and he's taking all that with him, all the training and the brutal work that we went through, because my people have to work at least 6 or 7 days a week at community events, and I give them a day or two off during the week. But the salary that he got straight out of college was phenomenal.
That's great. And he said he had a psychology major, so that doesn't hurt him either.
Right. But, without the experience and just the internship, I mean, to be making over $50,000 a year, starting out, that's pretty good money.
Yep, it sure is. I'm just looking at one more question I want to ask you about here. So MLS as a league and platform, it's seen a surge recently, right? If someone is new to the sports industry, and we'll wrap up with this one, especially new to soccer and FC Dallas, what should this person know about the industry as it relates to employment opportunities?
There's a lot of growth, okay? But one thing they need to know is you're working weekends, you're working holidays, you're working birthdays, you're working nights. Your life for 10 months is dedicated to sports. And if that is something you cannot do, you will not succeed. And so, I mean, stop and think about it. The football happens during Christmas. These sports events, or if you're working in the sports industry, if you have to be at your wife's birthday party or your husband's or their anniversary or family gatherings, then it may not be for you because you may end up getting divorced. It's the truth. It's the truth.
You said at the beginning of this podcast that you are brutally honest, didn't you? So,
yeah, it's really true because you're working nights,
right?
When people
weekends, holidays.
Yes. So if you stop and think about it, Denise, most people enjoy their time with friends and family on the weekend.
Sure.
And you're at work.
Sure. Yeah.
And I tell you that because my husband, he's like, what about me? I'm like, I told you from the beginning that it's sports and I work.
Yeah.
So, prime example, Saturday I worked. I was out of the house by 7 a.m. I didn't get home till 4:00 in the afternoon. And then Sunday we had the NCAA Division I championship game here. I got here at 5 a.m. Didn't get home till 7:00 at night.
And then you're working Monday to Friday.
That is correct. And so I told him, I said, this is what sports is about.
Yeah, right.
And so people need to understand that that is how it works. The other thing is, you're not going to make a lot of money.
Yeah, but you mentioned early on, I know we need to wrap up, but you mentioned early on, though, too, that there's other positions. Like, I would imagine photographers, though, people who are doing some aspects of social media or marketing, some of the other positions, even maybe higher paid accountants or people that move up into finance, things like that could make money.
That is correct. So we start out our positions for game day staff, start out at $15 an hour up to $20 an hour. And those are part-time positions. We may have some admin that they're getting paid $15, $16 an hour. And so those are salaries, and that's pretty standard across the industry.
Well, I appreciate all this information. I think this is a fabulous podcast. I'm so grateful to you for your time and just delving into a whole new industry that I have never explored before. So thank you, Eliud.
Absolutely.
Congratulations and good luck. Buena suerte on the team this year and your games and your season.
Gracias. I'm actually going to be I'll be doing a live podcast. I'm putting everything together in regards to HR.
Really?
And so I'll be doing those. Oh, yeah. So I'll be going live, I think. I'll be going live in February, so I'll be doing them twice a month in regards to resume building, how to write your resumes, and then look at bringing in individuals from other industries just to talk because of the tech industry of what has happened. But, everybody's having a hard time finding jobs, and they're all trying to get the resume to the best thing, to look as best qualified, which I tell individuals, not all applicant tracking systems, trust me. Everybody's like, but it has to have this keyword. No, it doesn't. Stop using the word aspired.
Yeah. And what was the other one we said? The other term?
Detail-oriented.
Detail-oriented, please.
And they look at the mistakes, and I'm like, take that off, please.
Yeah. Good way to wrap up. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Denise.
It's been a pleasure.
Besos, hermosa.
Gracias a ti. All right. Bye-bye.